Today, we're jumping into the world of one of literature's most unusual and, frankly, most brilliant detectives. A guy who doesn't really care about fingerprints or forensics. Nope, his secret weapon is something else entirely, something much, much deeper. So yeah, let's get right into it.
All right, so our story kicks off with two absolute titans. On one side, you've got this master criminal, Flambeau. And we're not talking about your average thief here. This guy is a true artist of crime. Just look at his resume. And on the other side, we have Monsieur Valentin, the head of the Parisian police. This man is a legend, a human thinking machine who believes everything can be solved with pure, cold logic. It's the perfect setup for a legendary cat-and-mouse game.
So you have the ultimate creative criminal, and you have the ultimate rational detective. The big question is, who on earth could possibly be clever enough to get the best of both of them at their own game? Well, the answer is someone you would never, ever see coming. Okay, let's really set the stage for this intellectual battle. See, Valentin, the detective, has this very specific philosophy about his job, and it pretty much frames this entire chase.
You know, it's fascinating how Valentin sees himself. He knows he's brilliant, absolutely. But in his own words, he sees his role as being fundamentally reactive. The criminal, the artist, creates this bizarre, tangled masterpiece of a crime, and Valentin, the critic, can only come in afterward and try to figure out what it all means. He's always, by definition, one step behind.
So the hunt begins. Valentin heads out across London, tracking Flambeau. But he's not looking for simple things like footprints or a dropped wallet. No, he's looking for a signature, a flash of criminal genius. He's fully expecting a complex intellectual puzzle. But what he finds is something totally different.
As Valentin starts following Flambeau's trail, the clues he finds aren't clever or brilliant. They're just, well, they're weird. They don't seem to point to anything. It just feels like a string of random, pointless acts. I mean, just look at this stuff. At a market, the labels for nuts and oranges are swapped. Okay. Then, in a restaurant, a bill is randomly tripled, the salt shaker is filled with sugar, and to top it all off, a cup of soup is just thrown against a wall. For a master of logic like Valentin, this is just nonsense. It's not a code, it's not a clue, it's chaos. What could any of this possibly mean?
So here's Valentin's strategy. He basically admits that he can't see a pattern. The logic is just gone. But he knows that this trail of pure strangeness, this series of queer things, is the only lead he has. He's convinced Flambeau is leaving this trail, and he's just got to follow it, no matter how little sense it makes.
And now we get to the big twist, because Valentin is on the right trail, but he has completely misunderstood who's leaving it, and more importantly, why. The key to this whole puzzle isn't the detective or the criminal. It's a quiet, unassuming little priest named Father Brown. Okay, get ready for the first huge reveal. Those bizarre things, the swapped salt, the crazy bill, they weren't done by Flambeau the criminal at all. They were actually done by Father Brown himself. They weren't clues for the police. They were little tests, carefully designed experiments. So you're probably asking, how in the world did he know? Well, it's actually incredibly down to earth. The moment Brown met Flambeau, he noticed this little bulge in his sleeve. And from his years of experience as a priest, hearing all sorts of confessions, he knew exactly what that was. A hidden spiked bracelet, a tool of the trade for a certain kind of criminal. So he ran his little tests. He put salt in the sugar. A normal person would complain, right? But a criminal trying to fly under the radar, he wouldn't say a word. And sure enough, Flambeau kept quiet. And this, right here, this is the heart of the whole thing. Father Brown's secret isn't some kind of super intellect, not in the way Valentin has it. It's empathy. Through his work in the confessional, he has listened to the darkest thoughts and temptations of countless people. So in a way, he's already been inside the mind of the sinner. He doesn't have to deduce the crime, he already understands the criminal.
But wait, don't mistake this for some kind of mystical power or vague intuition. Brown's method is actually built on something he believes is even more solid than Valentin's logic. And that brings us to his core philosophy.
Now, that might sound like a weird thing for a detective to say, but it tells you everything about how he sees the world. He doesn't just dismiss things that seem strange or unlikely, he accepts that the world is filled with incredible things that are, nevertheless, real. His mind is open to possibilities that a strict rationalist, like Valentin, might just write off as impossible from the get-go. And this is the powerful paradox at the center of his thinking. Where Valentin sees faith and reason as total opposites, Father Brown sees his faith as the ultimate guarantee of reason. He believes that if even God is bound by logic, then everything in the entire universe, no matter how weird or chaotic it seems, must have a rational explanation.
So, that's the real secret. His power isn't faith instead of logic, it's a deep faith in logic itself. He believes reason is this universal force that, as the story says, grips the loneliest star. There's always, always a rational truth at the center of every mystery. He just has to find it.
So what does all this add up to? What is the true source of this quiet priest's incredible ability to see things that a brilliant man like Valentin completely misses? Well, it really all comes down to one simple word.
The stories call his gift the innocence of Father Brown. But it's not innocence in the sense of being naive or childlike. Not at all. His innocence is a kind of profound clarity. See, he's not trying to prove how clever he is, like Valentin is. He's not driven by ego or ambition. He just looks for the simple, plain truth at the heart of things. Ultimately, his secret weapon isn't some special tool or a clever technique. It's a point of view. While all the other detectives are busy looking for complex codes and brilliant criminal plots, Father Brown is just looking for a man. A man who won't complain if there's salt in his sugar because he's trying to not get noticed. It's a truth so simple, so human, that the world's greatest detective missed it completely.
And that kind of leaves us with a question, doesn't it? When we're facing a really complex problem, how often do we get lost in all the details, trying to be clever like Valentin? What might we be able to see if we tried to be innocent instead, and just looked for the simple human truth that's probably hiding in plain sight the whole time?